Hey guys, by now you know we're using a zone blocking scheme. We use the terms covered and uncovered a lot. You hear me use red, yellow, and green a lot. But what does it all mean? Let's get into the covered versus uncovered. Let's take a look then. I'm going to use a guy named Luke Meadows. He was at Northern Illinois. He was at, I believe, Troy rather. And he's now going around doing clinics on blocking. So I've got some of his stuff for you guys to look at as well. But let's start out by looking at covered versus uncovered. Starting out with being covered. Cover is pretty simple, straightforward. If there's a man head up on you, you're covered. If there's a man to the play side gap, if we're going left and there's a guy in the gap to your left, you are covered. Those are your two responsibilities. You have to get there. You have to get your helmet across their chest. You have to get your hand at the bare minimum along at their play side shoulder. Your step is short. First step is short, choppy, quick. The depth and width all depends on the guy you're going after. If he's going that direction, you've got to make it quick. Remember, get the heels in the ground. You've got to get that first step down, and second step, you've got to get. If you're looking for a roll, I always say step towards the defender's crotch, but at least get your big toe inside their pinky toe of the defender. Make sure your shoulders stay square. Get your helmet to the play side of the defender. Your second step, like I said, is inside the foot, and the keys are explode and attack. Now on the flip side, if you're uncovered, that means there is nobody head up on you, and there's nobody to the play side gap. A lot of the rules don't change. Your first step is still play side. Your first step is still play side. Your second step is still coming along with you. Don't cross your feet over. You want to work your way to your gap. You have to look to see who needs help. If there's a player on the non-play side gap, you have to get a read on his foot to see if he's coming in. So if he's coming in, you have to give help. That's the pow we've talked about. You've got to pop and then get to your second level. Now, but your eyes are still going to be looking to the gap you're going. Is there a backer coming? If so, you got to pick him up. If the first defensive lineman to the play side is going away from you, one, that tells you a chance that our backer is coming. But two, you take the step that way, and then you start looking to the second level, which is that backer rather. So you've got to make sure you're covering your gap. Biggest thing to remember is once you make contact, you've got to get your head across the front. You've got to get your hand in the armpit. Get your hands in the armpits. Do not let your hands get outside the shoulder pads. I'm looking at this example of an even front. I look to see who's covered and uncovered. Now you have the center is covered because the nose is sitting in that gap. You have the play side tackle is covered because he's got a guy play side on his shoulder. Backside tackle, you are covered to the inside gap. Both guards in this case would be considered uncovered, but both guards would have a responsibility to help out because on the inside gap, if those players come to the play side, if they shoot to the play side, you have got to give up a pow pop so that both the center and the tackle can get their heads across the front, get the hands in the armpits and drive before you guys move on to the second level. Again, it's pretty easy when you just know you're covered and uncovered and you know what zone you have. Going to the right. You got to look to the left, like crossing the road. Look to the left, but make sure you're getting to the right. Make sure you pick up anything coming into your gap, your zone. Against an odd front, it's going to be hard to find anybody uncovered. For the most part, you're all going to have some form of a responsibility here. Again, you have to recognize most odd fronts, they're going to bounce around from gap to gap where they're going to be. In this example here, you see the center could be considered uncovered because the nose is sitting off in that A gap on the left side. But again, that is the backside of the play. So the backside guard would have to get there. The center might have to do the pow. But everybody else has a gap responsibility there. Against an odd front, if they're sending everybody and they're blitzing, we are going to have to form that wall. That's that unison drill from Northwestern we run. We have to form that wall and get hip to hip and make sure we're closing down areas. But again, it's just recognition. You come to the line. Are you covered or uncovered? At this point, I'm going to turn it over to some videos from a coach named Luke Meadows, who coached offensive line both Northern Illinois and at Troy. Listen to what he has to say. He's going to give you some examples.
Gap as far as where the ball's at. You have to understand where we expect the ball carrier to hit it. We expect the ball carrier in tight zone to run up the crack of the center. It could be a little bit wider of the center. It could be a little bit behind the center, but this is a general area we're expecting the ball carrier to hit. Nobody's allowed to be in that area unless you've got upfield movement. Uncovered. Uncovered means there's nobody in our gap. So we are running the ball to the left. So our center has nobody in his gap. Our right tackle has nobody in his gap. Again, we're running 4-12. So now this means we're covered. We're running to the left. Our left tackle has somebody in his gap, so he's covered. Same thing for the left guard. He's covered. And our right guard is covered because there's somebody in his gap. So uncovered or covered. Clusters. Talk about who it is we're working with. When we're running tight zone versus an even front, generally the play side tackle is on his own. Sometimes he's working with a tight end. The play side guard and center are working together in a cluster, and the backside guard and backside tackle are working together in a cluster. We name these clusters basic terms. So a play side guard center cluster in tight zone is called a SIG, C-I-G. There's both a C and a G in it, and the I means that it is an inside type of run. On the backside guard tackle cluster is called a sting. All of our backside clusters begin with the letter S. There's a T and a G in this for a tackling guard, and also an I for being an inside play. So again, our clusters, tight zone with the play side guard center is called a SIG, and the backside guard and backside tackle is called a sting. Now, there's a couple different ways those doubles can be run. So if we run a zone double, that means that the cluster's working together, that the guy that they're working to is not in between them. So we've got a 3 technique here. They're working to the left. He's not in between the guys in the cluster. This is called a cage. You could call it a SIG, or you could call it a cage. When you're up there communicating, it's a matter of this is a little bit more descriptive. The SIG can also hide our terminology. On the backside, again, this is a sting, but because it's a zone double, because he's not in between us, we would call that a stranger. You call that a sting or a stranger. If you want to get more descriptive, you'd call it a stranger. ID. When their center ID is a mic in tight zone, it's the furthest backer in the box of the front side. So this is the furthest backer in the box of the front side. That's who we declare. If for some reason we had backer 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you declare the furthest backer in the box, which would be backer 1. But this is the only backer, so the center would come up in this situation. He would come up. You would say even for the front. You would say SIG to this linebacker. If you wanted to get more descriptive, you could say even cage to this linebacker. The backside guard and backside tackle were to the next backer back, and here they would say sting to this linebacker. If they want to get more descriptive, they would say stranger to this linebacker. Versus a 3 technique. Go through the whole thing again. Go. Already understood gap. We already understood uncovered. We already talked about covered. We talked about the clusters. Okay. We talked about the ID. Okay. So if we're breaking all this thing down, we also talked about where the back's going. So this here is 413. So the center would come up here. You would say SIG to backer 1. The backside guard and backside tackle would say sting to backer number 2, or whatever their jersey number is, and the play side tackle is going to run a displace, and the ball is going up the crack of the center. So if we work this left to right, main thing here by the left tackle, okay, because the ball's going here, we've already won by alignment. We don't have to get wide on this thing. So what we're going to try to do is we're just talking about displacing. We want to take our play side hand and put it in the middle of his chest. We want to take our backside hand and put it in his armpit. We want to keep our eyes and inside leverage on the guy. And all we have to do here is create a stalemate, always understanding that this guy, once you're trying to displace him, he's going to try to fall back inside. So you have to be strong with your right hand and keep him from coming inside. The play side guard center, like we already said, they're running a SIG here. The ball's going up the center's crack. Now, when we're running the SIG, the guard has inside help with the slant, but that doesn't mean that we want to run way out here. Because the ball's going inside, the play side guard wants to go right through the inside eye of the play side guard. His left hand should be in the middle of the chest. His right hand should be up into the armpit, and he should be looking to displace. If this guy falls back inside, then fine, he has help. If not, then he can just displace him. The worst thing you can do here on a SIG by the play side guard or a cage is to go wide. Now the center's got to stay on your hip, and the play side linebacker can play underneath. So you're at the play side guard. First step, set your hips. Get your second step in the grounds. Uppercut. Fight to keep your eyes to the inside because, again, this defender is going to try to fall back to the inside. Our center, when he is running the SIG or the cage, his first step, he's expecting something to slant into his gap. If something shows, he takes it. If nothing shows, he wants to retrace back to the inside number of the declared linebacker. If we drift, this guy's going to play back underneath because, again, the ball carrier is going here. So when we step, we want to retrace to keep leverage on the initial landmark where the back's going. On the backside, we're running the sting to this linebacker. We already know the bell's going here. So our backside guard here is behind the play. So that means he has to win on the front side. So his first step is to set his hips, and he has to get his helmet to the front side. His helmet goes front side. His second step is going to go middle of the crotch. He's an uppercut with his backside hand. So we want to gain ground into this, an uppercut. Our backside tackle is going to step over the pipe, get his hip set, and then we want to crush this. If there's any color there, we're going to clean it and climb. If there's no color, there's nothing showing, now we can climb. But again, uncovered linemen when we're running zone doubles should always be expecting the guy to go into their gap. So their backside guard here, he wins. That's what we want. We want to give color so the backside tackle can clean and climb. As the tackle climbs, now it's understanding again, the ball is right here on the hash. That's right about where the back should be going. So we're getting past that spot. Our tackle's right on the guy, so this is our landmark. So in this situation here, if we're reading it, that's a quarterback's job to read it and pull it. Or it'd be running a team concept like 4-13 and having a guy block here on the backside somehow. One more time without me talking. 4-13. Okay, so this look here, we are running, I believe we're running 4-12. So in 4-12, again, we've got the gap because we're going to the right. We understand the ball's going into this gap, into that area. We talked about uncovered, which would be the center and backside tackle because there's nobody in the gap. Play side tackle, play side guard, backside guard are covered up. The clusters are play side tackle, play side guard and center, backside guard, backside tackle. And the ID is the furthest backer in the box, which is this guy. So if we're looking at our right tackle, his job's to be to displace. We need to get his right hand in the middle of the chest. His left hand isn't bad here. One thing we talk about is if this guy's standing up, we'll jump set him like we would do in pass pro. We want to get into that defender and get him. You don't have to get him way off the spot, but you always got to understand this guy's going to try to play back inside. The only thing I'd say here is need to do a better job with the right hand. Our play side guard, it's a tight 3 technique. So all he has to do is pick up his foot and put it down because the ball's going here to get his right through that inside eye. Uppercut it. Keep your eyes to the inside so you can see right here. We got one stripe. We want our stripe inside of his stripe. So our stripe's inside of his. We got to be able to keep that leverage and understand he's going to try to fall back in. So you got to have a strong inside arm again. Our center is too wide here. Need a better snap as well. But one step, if we see no color, it should be one hand and climb and retrace to the inside number because, again, we're running the ball right up the hash based on your initial alignment. This is tight zone versus this situation. If we're running 4-13, everybody's got their gap to the left. Okay, understanding the gap where the ball is going to be. The ball is going to be running somewhere up that center's crack is what we're looking at. And so understand you're not allowed to be in that gap unless you've got upfield movement on your defender. Uncovered. A lot of times when you're going against an odd front, not many people are going to be uncovered. So in this situation, if we're going 4-13, our right tackle here is the only one who's got an uncovered gap. What a lot of teams are doing now is they'll end up playing double 4 eyes, and it ends up making that everybody ends up being covered up. Makes it a little bit more difficult some of your double teams, but in this situation, if we're running 4-13 versus this odd front with the 5 technique, our right tackle's uncovered. Covered players is going to be the guard's got a guy in his gap, center's got a guy head up on top of him, other guard, play side tackle's covered up. Clusters. When we run our clusters versus an odd front and tight zone, it's now the play side tackle and play side guard, the center and backside guard, and the backside tackle, sometimes the tight end. The way we call these clusters is a play side tackle and guard. Again, they're running a tiger. That's what their cluster is called. Backside guard and center is called a spike. Again, all of our backside double start with an S. Then backside tackle tight end is a stallion, start with an S. if we break those down a little bit more, so tigers can be one of multiple things. So either we can run a fan where we're going out like that. It could be a grunt where you got like a 5 technique and a 30 backer, or it can end up being what we call a gut, which would be a 4-eye and a backer. So tigers can be fans, they can be protected fans, they can be grunts, or they can be guts. In this situation, this would be a fan because we're working to this defender. Okay. The center and backside guard, again, it's called a spike, but if we're going to a play side linebacker, we call it a scrape because it's got a P in it. We'll talk about what we call it on the backside, which ends up being more of a scab. And then backside tackle, tight end, still a stallion. The ID is still the furthest backer in the box. So nothing really changes as far as who we're working to. So if the center came up in this look, the center would come up, he'd say odd. So we all understand that the clusters change. He'd say odd. And if that backer's jersey number is 11, he'd say odd, scrape 1. Or he'd say odd, spike 1. Okay, scrape just gives us a little bit more definition on it. Play side tackle and guard work to the next guy outside. So in this situation, they'd say tiger or fan or PF to the next backer outside. Backside tackle would call to the next backer back. So in this situation, would be a stallion. So again, center would come up odd, scrape 11, fan to here, stallion to here. Back is still going up the crack of the center. So break it all down, play side tackle and play side guard. If those guys are already running the fan or the protected fan. So you see here with our left tackle, it's just like you're running to displace, like we're going against an even front. If he's wide, you can go ahead and jump it. Okay, play side guard, you got he can be a 4-eye, he can be a 3. Here he's a 3. So it's a lot like you're running like a cage at the center, but now you don't got no help. So it's just a matter of if the guy goes inside, you have to roll with him. So here he's reduced down a little bit more. If this guy was like a 4-eye and this guy's a little bit deeper, and you got a lot of these games they do, we run what we call a protected fan, which we'll get into later. With the play side tackle displace, understand leverage, play side guards, really running the same displace, understand leverage. It's really the same block a play side tackle would be doing if we had like a SIG inside of him. The center, ball's running up your crack. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to go play side. So in this situation, since we're going left, you just go left foot, right foot, and we want to go right through that guy's face. It's your job to get that initial push. The backside guard wants to step over the pipe and knock the hell out of this thing. Very similar to how a backside tackle would be on a stagger. But we want to come over here, and we want to take both of these dudes. So when we fit this up, we want to take both these guys and put them over here. We come over, we hit him, and we knock him over, and we can climb fine. But we want to move that guy off the spot because that's where the back's going. So if they're center here, a little bit of a hop and catch, but our hands are tight. And the biggest deal here is staying patient. A lot of times if we leave early, this guy flows over the top and we get picked off. So it's best to take this guy and put him into the declared linebacker. This is actually pretty good on the scrape here, or a spike to a play side linebacker. Backside tackle's got open gap. A lot of times you have a 4-eye here where you have to win on the backside, kind of like a backside guard when you're running a stranger. So on this one here, it's over the pipe. You don't really have a gap to check. It's a matter of you understand the ball's going here, so your hat's going to have to win on that linebacker. Backside tight end is going to be on your hip. So again, it's pretty good because we're running the ball right up the hash. There's space there right on the hash. If we end up handing it off, and we end up falling back a little bit. Okay, this is the biggest thing about a backside tackle when you run this stallion is when you're working up, make sure your shoulder's low because a lot of times the defensive end will try to press you into that gap.
I know that's a lot. If you get a chance to work your way all the way through this, bring questions to practice. We can talk about things, look at situations. But if you understand everything in this video, if you get this down, that's our blocking scheme for the whole season. All we do off of this is just make adjustments. So if you can get this down, if we can get this mastered before we get into the scrimmage at Elkhorn, before we play Partyville, before we go on to whoever is next, Wilmot, you will have a successful season. So again, watch, bring questions, figure out your responsibilities. And from there, we're ready to go. All right, let the big dog eat.